right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we are going to start with the session, but I think someone is there in the waiting room. So we'll wait for those students and then we will, all
Yeah, I'm,
together move ahead.
yeah, I'm admitted. They are all
Yeah.
admitted.
Okay. Okay. So hi, good evening. We are restarting over the introduction because few of the students joined us right now. So I just don't want anyone to miss on anything. So you all are aware that you are here for the game development using Python. So obviously you must have made some kind of research, and after that only you have been headed over here to listen to this course or to attend to this class. So before directly moving ahead, as some of the students have joined us right now, I would simply like to give you some introduction about the Kaksha, and then we can move ahead with the today's agenda or today's topic, that is nothing but game development using Python. So basically, we at the Unikaksha, we provide digital online courses. So the courses are basically created on those subjects which are used in the industry or which are generally used most of the times in your, IT development units. So for example, it may range starting from your Azure, then there is something called as AWS, then there is something called as Java full stack development, then there is something called as data science, then a Python game development, and machine learning. All these are the different types of courses that are designed and that are delivered in such a way that whenever you attend or whenever you get certification, that time you must be job ready. Because most of the time what happens that if I'm studying Python, suppose say Python, because I am aware about Python, so I can just talk more about Python. So if I want to learn Python, generally what I do is I search for a certain blog, I read the material. When I read the material, I know the theory. But whenever it comes to practically implement that thing, I sometimes get failed because I am not practicing it enough. So that's the reason when you are studying any programming language, it's very important that you should solve maximum number of live possible examples. Then and then only you can get, the complete knowledge of that language. And frankly speaking, if you understand one programming language, then you can understand any other programming language in the future. So what the intention behind telling you is, we at the Unikaksha, we focus more on the practical education rather than being, focusing on a theoretical kind of education. So we will be providing you maximum number of examples on any possible unit that is covered in mostly all of our sessions. If you want to know more about the courses and everything conducted by the Unikaksha, then the website is given. You can anytime click on the website, or our governance team is there live in this session as well. So if you want to have any knowledge about what are the different courses or curriculums of those courses, you can feel free to ask them. They are there to solve your all doubts related to course curriculums and everything. Now, next thing is, what is this Guru class? So, if you are going through the details about all the Guru classes, you might have came across that these are very short time kind of courses, say 4-hour courses, in which we are going to discuss one certain application, or we are going to discuss about one certain part of that application. So, why this Guru classes is all about, or what is the intention behind it? Guys, what happens when we complete our masters or when we complete our graduation, suppose say from any technical background or non-technical background, we see on the LinkedIn or we see on this job portals that these are the requirements in this industry, or these many openings are there in a certain field, and then we get confused that whether to select this field or whether to select field B or whether to select field C or field D and so on. And then it simply creates a confusion in front of us that in which direction to go. I want to do something, I want to learn something, but I don't know what to learn exactly. So this Guru courses will help you to decide what is your actual interest. So these courses are designed in such a way that in 4 hours we are going to develop either application or a part of application. So while developing that application, if you think that yes, this is my interest, I like this particular area, I would like to explore this area, then you can think about taking a kind of certification, or you can think about learning that subject by yourself as well. We are not saying that only from Unikaksha. You can learn that subject by yourself as well, but our intention is to give the students a kind of guided approach so that you will at least come to know where your interest lies. And that's why, apart from the Python game development, there are a lot of, what you can say, the trending topics ka 4 hours ka guru session is provided by the Kaksha. If you want to know about more about the different types or different fields in which the guru classes have been conducted, again our governance team is there, so they can help you to find out which is the next guru class, when it is going to be there, and so on. And absolutely, they're absolutely for free. So if I'm thinking from the student perspective, then I will say that go and attend maximum number of classes as possible, so that at least you'll come to know how in practical the things happen. So for example, if you are going for a data science session, you will come to know how certain data science concepts are implemented on the real time data, and the visuals or final result has been created. If you are developing something for the or if you are going for Azure service, then you can get all the tour of the entire Azure services provided. In If you are attending for the Java, then you'll come to know how a simple application will be built from from backend to your front end. So a kind of miniature version, you can say, of one project that we try to cover in this 4 classes. Now I know that you all are very excited to start with our today's topic, that is nothing but game development using Python. So I'll not take much of your time. I'll directly go to the topic. I'll directly start with the topic now. So we all are aware that gaming is a very booming kind of field right now, because just imagine when we are working, I mean the entire world is now work from home, so mobile is there in our hand 24 by 7. So if you are working for some college related project, or if you are working on something of your office things, and after some time we get bored, and as the mobile is the only thing which is there in our hand, immediately we swipe our screen and we start a certain game, right? So obviously this particular gaming has enhanced in a past few years a lot. If you just go back to 10 years back, and if you just try to check how the games were there, then you will find out the games were not so fancy with respect to the background. They were not so fancy sounds, they were not so fancy objects, or they were not so fancy effects which were there in the game. But if you just check the today's game are very fancy with respect to the effects that are given into the game. In fact, the gamers or the game builders, they are trying to build the game in such a way that it should reflect the reality, or it should be very close to the reality. For example, if it's a car racing game, then they try to make sure that the environment is provided in such a way that user should get a feel that yes, he is inside that car and he is driving that car. So that much advancement is being done inside this gaming field. And now if you are aware, the future is all about virtual reality, so you can simply have that virtual reality kind of headsets, and then you can actually get a feel that you are there in that environment and you can play. So frankly speaking, gaming is the industry that is going to develop a lot in a coming few years. And that's the reason it's very important that not everything, but at least you should know some of the very basic concepts whenever it comes to the game. And that's the entire intention about this today's class, that is how to create a very simple, very small interactive kind of game in Python. Why interactive game? Because you can create something called as static, you can create something called as interactive. Static is a kind of thing that if you are playing 2 or 3 times, you come to know that okay, this is the only way in which the computer is going to make a move. So in next fourth or fifth try, you can win the game, and henceforth you can win the game every time whenever you play. But the dynamic games or interactive games are such type of games where the condition changes whenever user gives the next move. So that's basically what we are going to learn, or that's basically what we are going to see today. But we are going to start with this Python programming language because we are going to build the game in Python. There are a lot of applications available in which you can build the game, but we are going to see this game development from the perspective of the Python. And I totally understand that few of the students come from the technical background and few of the students come from the non-technical background. And at the end of the session, I want that everyone to be there on the same page. And that's the reason I'll first try my level best to make you aware what the Python programming language is, how to write code in the Python. Once you get a confidence that yes, you can write code in Python, you can at least understand the syntax written in the Python, then and then only I will move to the actual code that we are going to write inside the Python. And everything is hands-on. At the end of tomorrow's session, I'll provide you all the Python files. I'll provide you all the material that I have used in order to create the game. So just don't worry, you will get everything at the end of the session. So don't have that thing in mind that, oh, I have missed one line while writing the code or while copying the code from the screen, so how will be I able to make the game at the end, and so on. So the better thing is, you can just see on the screen what are the things that are happening. If you are confident enough that you can type the things simultaneously on screen, I would encourage to do that. But if not, then just don't worry. This code and everything you will get at the end of this Guru class session. Okay. So I think we are good to go with the basics of the Python understanding. In order to understand the Python, or in order to work with the Python, I have chosen two frameworks. One is the Jupyter and one is the Spider. So we are going to learn the basics of the Python using Jupyter Notebook. And after doing that, we will develop a game in the Spider. I'll tell you the reason why we are not developing a game in the Jupyter itself. So there are a lot of reasons behind it. So before that, let me just show you how the Python Jupyter environment looks like. So if you can see on the screen, this is something called as Anaconda Navigator. This is something called as a Python distribution. Now, whenever we try writing a code in a certain programming language, so Python is a programming language, Java is a programming language, C# is a programming language, C is a programming language. So whenever you want to write a code in a programming language, you need some tool in which you can develop your code, right? And for that reason, you need to have some kind of framework, or you need to have some kind of application. So Anaconda distribution is a collection of a framework. So distribution is basically collection of the frameworks. That means there are multiple frameworks inside the Anaconda distribution, and all these frameworks have been designed for slightly different purpose or for some different use. Out of which, this Jupyter Notebook is something which is highly used nowadays, because nowadays, if you have seen, all the domains have been shifted to the Python, and Jupyter Notebook is a kind of simplest architecture, I could say, or a simplest framework in which the Python code can be written or Python code can be interpreted. And that's the reason why Jupyter Notebook is very much famous. But along with that, you can go for Spider, or you can go for PyCharm, or if you think that these are too heavy softwares for you, then you can go for something called as IDLE Python, which is the smallest, or you can say the shortest application with respect to the size I'm saying that is available, in which you can write your Python codes. And sometimes what happens, if we are working on the office laptops, so on the office laptops, we are not provided a permission to download a certain software and to use it. In that case, again, Google provides you the final option that, there is one option called as Google Colab. So instead of, simply saying, it would be better if I just show you. So what you can do is, there is something called as Google Colab. Let me just show you. So I think you can see my Google page. So I'm simply typing over here as Google Colab. So once you type this Google Colab, it gives http research.google.com collaboratory. You simply have to click on the first link, that is Google Collaboratory. As soon as you click on that, it will first ask you for the login. But I think most of us are always logged in on your Chrome, because we use Google services in our everyday life. So obviously most of the times we are logged in on the Chrome. So you can simply take that username and you can enter into this Google Colab, and then you can check that these are my previously created Python notebook files. If I want to create any new, I'll simply click on new notebook. Once I click on new notebook, it creates that Python environment or Jupyter Notebook environment for me using Google Colab. So you can write your codes over here. So let me just simultaneously show you the other window, or the one or the Jupyter that you can launch using your Anaconda. So if you just get a look at both, then you will understand that they are somewhat very similar to each other. So this is basically my Jupyter window, from which I am again starting my one Python notebook. So if you just see, this is a Python notebook that I have created using Anaconda distribution. And this is the Python notebook that is available inside your Google Colab. Both looks exactly same. So if you're having a restriction that I can't download a certain software, or it is not allowed for me to download a certain software, then just don't worry. You can take the help of this Google Colab option that is available. I just hope all are comfortable to this point, that which are the resources on which you can write the code and which is the simplest among it. If you don't want to download anything, then what you can do, so simply go for Google Colab. Any doubts you have till this time, feel free to ask. If you don't have any doubts, then in the chat box you can simply write yes, no, or whatever your opinion is, so that it will give me a kind of acknowledgement to move ahead in this topic. Okay, thank you so much for that reply, dear. So let me just move ahead with this now. In every programming language, if you don't want to create any logic, then you can yes, you can write the code inside Python IDLE. There is something called as IDLE Python. I just hope I have installed it. Yes, that something looks like this. Just to make sure whatever version of Python, something like this. So this is a very basic interpreter of Python that is available with some limited functionalities you can see in this IDLE Python, and that's the reason instead of IDLE Python, it is always promoted that you should go for any proper framework such as Jupyter, or such as Spider or PyCharm or any other thing. Yes, why not? You can write the codes inside the PyCharm as well. Anything would do. In fact, at the end of the session, if you want, or in the tomorrow's session, I can give you the list of the free platforms which are available over the internet. There also you can write your Python code. So it is a kind of language that is accepted by all, and there are a lot of advancements that have been done in the Python, and so it's the very quick language for anyone to adapt. Yeah. Before actually moving to the core topic about while writing the code or how to write the codes in the Python, first thing, I just hope you all are aware that Python is a free and open source kind of language. That means you can download it for free. In fact, you can have some kind of customization in the source codes as well. But yes, that requires you to be master of that language, then and then only you can do it. But some sort of customization you can do inside the Python. And it's a kind of language which is having a huge community support. What do I mean by the community support? If you are writing a certain code in Python, and suppose say you are stuck at some point and you're not aware how to move ahead, simply drop a question on a community and you'll find that there are almost thousands of the reply that you'll get in a single day. That means there are a lot of people in this world who are making the Python more and more better, who are making the Python more and more easier. And that's the reason you'll find out if there is any bug, or if there is any shortcoming or loophole in a language that is addressed by the people, and immediately in the next release of the Python, that bug or that loophole is treated. So that's a vast community of the Python is available, and because of that, it's very easy kind of language to understand. So anyone who is not having any background of the coding can start learning coding at any point of time in their career, at any point of time in their age, from Python. So it's a very simplest language for anyone to start or to learn coding is all about. And once, as I always say, that once you understand one programming language, you can learn any other programming language, because the fundamentals are never going to change. For example, sentence formation. So there are some rules of the sentence formation in your mother tongue. For example, my mother tongue is Marathi. So there are some rules that I have to follow while making a statement in the Marathi, that I got to know when I was a child, and I remembered all those rules. When I was learning other language, suppose when I learned English at the age of 6 or at the age of 7, I was very aware that what are the rules that a certain language follows. And using those rules, I adopted the new language as well. So likewise, if you want to, adopt any new programming language, make sure that your basis or your basics of one programming language is crystal clear. Anyway, so moving ahead in this Python programming language. So the development of the Python actually started in 1971 when the creator of the Python wanted to create a language that should be accessible to all at free of cost, and that should be, very, very and very simple to understand. And finally, in 1991, he came up with the first release of the Python. And then after, the entire world, the entire Python community contributed in the Python. And nowadays, you can see Python almost everywhere. It's the leading programming language in today's world, which is having more than 50% of the entire coding in the world is done using simple Python programming language. And it's not restricted to a certain domain. That means it's not like that we can use it only for the game development domain. In fact, it can be used in all the domains. It is used for data science applications. It is used for your, workflow applications. It is used nowadays for generating desktop applications as well. So it is used for creating the web services. So you can create all the things that are possible to create in this world using Python. You can use it in the healthcare. You can use it in the entertainment industry. You can see its use in the transport industry. So whenever you're traveling with the Uber, or whenever you are watching any movie next time on Netflix, or whenever you are seeing any recommendations on Spotify, or whenever you are asking any question to a Quora, or whenever you are seeking any help from Google, or whenever you are dropping an email to the Dropbox, just remember all these softwares, or all these applications rather, they are built using Python. So that's basically the extensiveness of the Python. And the other thing is, it's not like having any kind of restrictions on the operating system. It can work in all operating systems. So cross-platform applications of Pythons are also possible, and it's very extensive. That means still there are enhancements going on in Python. So in the coming years, you'll find out it will become more easier language. At the same time, you'll find out it will be having more things comprised within it. So it's a kind of huge umbrella in which there are small topics we can discuss. In fact, it's an endless kind of discussion if we simply talk about the application areas of the Python. So I just restrict to my discussion of application of Python at that point. I was saying before some time that whenever you are having any programming language, but you don't know what to type in that language, then what you can do is you can simply type any expression. So for example, this is a mathematical expression that I just typed. And when I ran this expression, for running a certain expression, you can use Control Enter as a key pair, and you can get the answer. So you can see this is first input that I gave, and this is first output that I'm getting. So in any programming language, if you are not aware how to write program into that language, you can use that language as a basic calculator. So in Python as well, if you don't know how to write the code, how to develop a code, simply try writing the mathematical expressions. It will generate the output for that. Now for the first two lines, before starting line, I have used this hash symbol. What this hash symbol is all about? So this hash symbol indicates that this certain line is a comment. What's the meaning of comment? Comment is that line which is not interpreted. That means comment is a line jiska koi meaning nahi hota. It is only written for understanding purpose, or it is only written for a review purpose. For example, after 10 days, if I want to go back to my code and check what I have done in that code, if I'm writing the comments, it becomes very easier for me to check, okay, these were the lines that I have written. This was the reason behind which, writing those code statements and so on. So that's the reason why comment is specified in every programming language. It's not only exclusive to the Python, it's there for all languages. Now in Jupyter, it allows you to create something called as a cell. What is cell? Generally, it is said that whatever is related to short thing. For example, let us say that you want to perform a very complex calculation, or you want to run a very complex task. Then what you can do, you can divide that task into small modules. For example, if I want to develop some application for a bank, what I can do, I can create one small module in which I can accept the value of username and suppose say account number. In next module, I can authenticate whether that user actually belongs to my bank or not. In third thing, I can check what is the existing balance of that user. In next, I can ask him, okay, what is the thing that you want to perform, like withdrawing, just checking a balance, or adding some amount in the existing balance. Then based on that, you can create those modules and so on. So basically, you can divide your huge task into small logically related tasks, and those logically related tasks you can write in a different cell. So it becomes very easier for you to understand as well. If you are writing everything within a same cell, then it creates slight confusion while accessing, the lines of the code when you are accessing that code after 2 days, 3 days, and so on. So you can write the different set of code or different logically related statements in the different cells, and you can create those multiple cells in a one huge script or in one huge entire program. So I just hope the use of cells is clear, the use of comment is clear, and this is also clear to you that when you don't know anything about that programming language, you can use that programming language as a simple calculator. You can write any complicated kind of expression over here, any and anything you can write. So there is no restriction about how many values I can pass. Sometimes in a calculator there is a restriction because it accepts a certain amount of input as well, but that's not the case with Python as a programming language. So you can write anything, any expression, just to make sure that you are writing it in correct way. That means you should follow the things or the syntax of that language. If you are writing it correctly, you are definitely going to get the answer. So in this case, it has applied the BODMAS rule because we are having multiplication, subtraction, division, and everything on a single statement. So like whenever we are solving such expressions on pen and paper, we use the BODMAS rule, the same will be implemented and the result is given. So I just hope this part is crystal clear for everyone that whenever we want to write anything in a language, but we don't know what to write, you can simply try writing this expression and get the answers out of it. Next is, if you want to print anything on the screen, or if you want to print anything as an output, you can use one statement available in Python. Again, this is not only a provision of Python, this is a provision of all programming language. So if I simply want to print anything, I can simply write welcome to Kaksha. So if I'm writing like this, and if I'm control enter, that means if I'm running the statement, then it prints whatever you have written into that double quotes on your screen. That means what I have understood from this, that I can pass numbers as well as I can create some string, or I can create some set of characters that also can be, or that is also accepted by that programming language. So now it gives a curiosity to me to know that what are the different types of data we can create in Python, or basically how the data is created in Python. So whatever expression that I have written over here, or whatever line that I have written over here, if I want to reproduce this expression, then I have to rerun this expression. Otherwise, there is no other way. So this is a slightly simple expression still, I say, because whenever we try writing the codes in real life scenario, the expressions are actually very huge. So just imagine if you need such huge expression to be evaluated 15 to 20 times, or even 50 to 60 times in a simple code, then every time you have to write that huge expression. What will be the better idea? The better idea is, if I can store that huge expression in some variable, so I'm simply copying it, the same expression over here. What we are doing by writing the statement, we are saying that evaluate this expression, whatever will be the result of this expression, store it inside this variable called as a, so that next time whenever you want to reprint that expression, don't write this expression, but instead of that you can simply write a. For example, if I am simply writing print a, then it will print the value which is present in that expression. If I am calling it in the cell, still it is able to generate the answer. So what is the use of variable? So variable may, you can store your result and you can call that result anywhere at any point of time in your current running script. That's basically what we mean by variable. Why it is called as variable? Because in the next piece of code, if I say that the value of A is 100, if I run this, and now if I try to print the value of A, it will give me the updated value. That's the reason why it is called as a variable, something which is having ability to vary, something which is having ability to change is basically what we mean by variable. So that's the reason you can change the value of the variable at any point of time in your code. Okay, there is no undo kind of thing available in any type of coding. That's why wherever you are assigning the values, whenever you are changing values, you have to be very clear in your mind that what you are doing. Because sorry, if you want to get back to your previous value, then you have to rerun the previous expression to get that value. I just hope you all are clear till this part that what do we mean by variable, and we can change the value of variable at any point of time. And third thing, whenever you want to display the value contained by that variable, that time you simply have to write print and pass the name of that variable, so it is able to display the value which is there stored in this variable. So if you are still not able to understand, you can take some analogical example. You are a human being, but no one calls you like a human. Hi human, how are you? Hi human, would you like to have a dinner or something like that? So in order to identify you, you are provided with the name. So for example, if someone wants to call me, they call like, hi Prachi, how are you, where you are going, and so on. So basically, Prachi is the name given to me so that next time a person wants to access my information, or next time when person wants to communicate with me, that time a person can take my name, that time a person can address me, then it will be easier for me to attend the call of that person as well. That's basically what we mean by variable. I just hope this part is clear for everyone that what do we mean by variable, how to create a variable, and what is the use of variable. Any doubts till this part? You can simply say yes or no so that it will give me affirmation that I should go with the next topic. It's always a pleasure to have a kind of in interactive session. So we know that due to this pandemic and due to this all the scenario, we are meeting online nowadays. But the feeling that yes, someone is also there, someone is also listening to what you are saying, it always gives encouragement to the speaker. So yes, thank you so much for your acknowledgement. Moving ahead with the next topic, what are the different types of data we can create in Python? So basically, I'm just talking about the atomic data types. What do we mean by atomic data types? They are also called as primitive data types of Python. By the word atomic, it is trying to suggest a single value. So far, we are just discussing about the single values. Once we discuss about all the singular value, then we can go with how to create collections using a Python. Okay. So what are the different single values that we can create? Like we have created the expression that generates a single value out of it, or we have passed the single value, or we have created the single string. So that's basically what we mean by atomic type of data. So I can create a variable of type something like this. A is equal to 100 or x is equal to 100. If I try to check type of x, so what this query is returning me, this query is returning me the result as integer. What does that indicate? It indicates that 100 is the value stored inside variable x. What is the type of 100? So 100 is integer type of value. What do we mean by integer? So integer are nothing but those numbers that can store whole values. So whenever you want to store something like roll number, phone number, SSN number, Aadhaar card number, in that case, it is mandatory that users should not enter any decimal point or any character. So that time you can have the strict type that whenever user enters the value has to be integer. So integer is provided. Next, whenever you are assigning salary to the person, it's very possible that salary amount is written in the decimals. It's absolutely possible. And that's why for such type of scenarios, Python provides us with something called as float type of values. So what do we mean by float values? Floats are again numbers only, They are also numbers, but they can access or they can store decimal numbers. Whenever you say integer, they are whole numbers. Whenever you say floats, they are basically the decimal numbers, or they have the capability to store your decimal type of numbers. Then there comes a specific type of number which is called as a complex number. I don't know whether you remember complex numbers from your lower standard mathematics or not, but it's a number which is written something like a plus bi. In Python, we write it as a plus bj or something like that. So basically, the part A of this is called as a real part, and this bj is the imaginary part. So complex number is a different types of numbers. Like you have your rational numbers, irrational numbers. So likewise, there is one family of the numbers called as complex number, which comes with this two parts, real part and imaginary part. So if you want to create any complex number, so for example, I'm writing this as complex 1 is equal to 2 plus 5j and, sorry, my mistake. It's 2 plus 5j. And if you simply try to print type complex 1, it is generating the result as complex. So this j is having a fixed value of square root of -1. In few programming language, it is written as 2 plus 5i, but in Python, it is written as 2 plus 5j. That means this real part is always ending with j only. Now you can't say that my favorite letter is P or my favorite letter is, D. So I will write D or P over here. It's not allowed. You have to compulsorily write j over there only. And finally comes the last type of data to which you can assign logical type of values. So what do you mean by logical values? So if you are aware about the Boolean algebra that you might have studied in your lower standard mathematics again. So it comprises of true and false. And we used to create some kind of gates, AND gate, OR gate, NOT gate, NAND, and so on. Or we used to create some kind of we used to build some kind of logic statements using this true and false. So basically, true and false कहाँ पे use किया जाता है? For example, if I want to evaluate some expression, check if 5 is greater than 6. If you run this, it's very obvious that 5 is not greater than 6, and that's why your machine should return you the result as false. That means there are some expressions that returns the result in terms of true and false. That means whether that expression is correct or whether that expression is wrong. So in order to have such kind of interactivity in a language, every language is provided with this Boolean type of data, which can be assigned the value either true or false. So you can write this q is equal to false. And if you check type of q, I will use print over here. Because if you don't write print, तो क्या होता है? Every cell can give you only one output. And यहाँ पे I want more than one output, right? I want to print the output of this. I want to print the output of this. That's why it is mandatory to write that print statement. So let me just run this. So you'll find out that both of these variables are of type Boolean. And one more thing, if you are writing true like this, then it won't be considered as a Boolean because Python is a case sensitive language. So you have to be always careful how you are writing the code in the Python. That means what I want to say is, in a very simple terms, for those who haven't understood what is case sensitivity, variable 1 is equal to 100, variable 1 is equal to 200. These are two different variables for the Python. Though their spellings are exactly the same, but the first one is written in uppercase, this one is written in the lowercase. In fact, if I am writing is equal to 300, then these three variables will become different variable. The reason is, though they appear same, but they are different because their cases or the way in which they have been written are different. So this is basically what we mean by case sensitivity of Python. I just hope this part is clear. Any doubt? So let us just revise these things in very quick way. We have integer, we have float, we have complex, We have string. Sorry, I think I didn't talk about string. So let's just have a discussion on a string. So how to create a string? It's very easy. Suppose I'm writing A is equal to, and in quotes, if I write unique Kaksha, if I try to print, what's the type of A? The type of A is string. Or you could have written something like this. A is equal to Python print type of A. This time also I have written a string only, but instead of using double quotes, I have been using a single quotes. Or this can also be written something like this. A is equal to something like this. Programming. Print type of A. So if you are writing in single quotes, or if you are writing in double quotes, or if you are writing in triple quotes, everything is considered as a string in Python. In fact, if you are writing A is equal to 100 like this, and if you try to print what is the type of variable A, still it is going to generate the result as string, because though you are writing a number, but it is enclosed in the quotes, so it is automatically string type of declaration for Python. I just hope this is very clear. And there are some rules which are generally used by the people. They are not rules as such, but conventions, you can say. So when you want to store a single letter, suppose say I want to store this, then it is generally advisable that use the single quotes. If you want to store a word or a sentence, single line sentence, then go for the double quotes. And if you want to write something multi-line, then go for the triple quotes. So this is a convention. If you follow this, then you are writing code in a good practice way. But otherwise also, if you don't follow, then also you're going to get the result. But if you know the language, then follow the rules. That will be better. So I just hope the basic data types are clear, or all this atomic data types, or all this primitive data types that we have discussed so far, they all are clear to you. Any doubts till this part? Have you understood all the primitive data types of Python? You can just give your answer in terms of yes, no. Okay, that's great. So after this, there is something which is called as a collective data types as well. Collective data types helps you to store more than one value, which can be homogeneous, which can be heterogeneous, which can be ordered, which can be unordered, and so on. So let us just check all these, Python collective data types or non-primitive data types. So I am not going to discuss all of them because, Python is a very vast language. So it's slightly impossible for me to cover up the entire Python basics in 2 hours. So I will be using, or I will be showing you only those things that you must be aware of in order to learn the game code. So here, if I want to store multiple element, I can make a use of something called as list. Now, concept of list is again not only available in Python, it is available in other programming languages as well. List is that kind of collection where you can store homogeneous or heterogeneous type of data, and you can store multiple elements within it. For example, if I write simply like this, list 1 is equal to square bracket open and close. If I'm simply writing like this, then it will create blank list. That means the list having no elements. If I'm writing something like this, list 2 is equal to 12, 45, 67, then I'm creating a list of homogeneous data. Why homogeneous? Because all of them are integers in nature. If I'm writing list 3 is equal to 12, 45.67 and unique Kaksha. So if you just see, this list is heterogeneous list. Why heterogeneous? Because it consists of one integer, it consists of one float, and it consists of one string value. I can create nested kind of list as well. So suppose I'm writing 34, 50, 100, comma, A, B, C, comma, I this ABC should be written in quotes. Just a second. Comma, suppose I'm writing 10 over here. Then this is also allowed. So this is a kind of list inside list, or you can say the nested kind of list structure. Now next thing comes is how to access the elements of the list. So suppose I want to access this first element of the list 3. I write something like this: list 3, give the square bracket, type 0. What's the reason behind this? This is called as indexing. See, now suppose say you are entering in a certain classroom for the first time. You are not aware about the names of your students. Like I'm not aware about your names right now. And suppose there are 4 students who are starting or who are sitting on the first bench. It's very difficult for any teacher to remember all the names in the first day. But the teacher can remember the students by the position in which the students were sitting. Who was sitting at the first position in the first bench? Who was sitting at the middle position of the first bench? Who was sitting at the last position of the first bench?
Prachi, just a second. Hi, students. I request you not to paint anything on screen. Please maintain the decorum. Don't paint anything on the screen. Prachi, you can remove that this yellow paint. I request not maintain the decorum, and please don't paint anything on the screen. Otherwise, we will remove you from the group. Thank you. You can continue that.
Yes. Here. So moving ahead with this, we were discussing about the if they are not aware that at which position any student is sitting, then we can simply remember, okay, this was a student sitting at the first position, this was a student sitting at the second position, this was a student sitting at the third position, and so on. So likewise, when we store the elements in the list, and if you want to retrieve a particular element, and if you don't know that what that exact element is, I know that I want to retrieve the first element, but I don't know what the first element is, then in that case I can retrieve the element using its index position. I just hope the concept is clear. So it's like if someone comes to your building and wants to circulate something, then the person, if not aware about the name of a person, then at least he should be aware about the residential what you can say plot, say 101, 102, 103, so that if he or she is aware about that flat number, then also you can access or you can convey your information to the people who are living inside that flat. That's basically what we mean by indexing or index. So Python indexing always starts with 0. So if you write list 3 of 0, then it will give you the first element, that is nothing but 12. There are other programming languages as well in which indexing starts with 0. There are few programming language jahan pe indexing 1 se bhi start hota hai. But Python is that category of language where indexing starts with 0. Now I know that there are few students who come from technological background, or you can say from the tech background. So it's my simple question to all of you guys. Are you aware about why the indexing starts with 0? Any one of you can answer to this question. Are you aware about this thing? Or do you know the reason behind why indexing starts with 0? Anyone? You can just think and can write your answer in chat box, or you can simply ask a permission to unmute and say your answer. Why do you think that the index starts with 0? That means the 0th element is 12, the first element is 45, the second element is 67. Why it is so? Yeah, it is by default. You are absolutely correct, Prithvi, but the question is why? Why by default they might have thought like this? क्योंकि ये तो बहुत simple था ना? Just give first or 1 to 12, 2 to 45, 3 to 67. So instead of that, why they wanted to complicate by saying 0 is 12, 1 is 45, and 2 is 67? Any reason you can give behind this? You might think that the reason is silly, but it might not be. So whatever comes to your mind. No, by default, it's not possible to you. By default, whenever you create, Python always assigns the index with 0 only. That's the standard way used by the Python. So when you're having any ordered kind of collection, that ordered collection always starts with 0. Always 0 as an index. Anyways, so let me just explain this concept of something called as index. Suppose if I'm creating a list of 8, 9, and suppose say 10. These are the elements. Now, if I simply print list 1 ka element which is present at the 0th index, it returns me the result as 1 because this is the first element of this list. Now, what is the meaning of the 0th index? 0th index indicates that this is the index from where your element insertion have been started. What I mean by this, basically index is a relative difference with respect to first element in the list. So, what is the relative difference of 1 with respect to first element in the list? So, first element in list itself is 1. So, what is the relative difference of 1 with respect to 1? Obviously 0, because it is itself that certain element. So, that's why index of 1 is 0. What is the relative difference of 2 with respect to 1? So, obviously that is 1. That's the reason if you are typing print list 1 of 1, then it will provide you the result as 2. What is the reason? क्योंकि जब भी आप list 1 of 1 लिखते हो, that means it is trying to tell you कि 0th index के बाद 1 unit difference पे कौन सा element है. Sorry, that is basically 2. That's the reason why indexing in Python or the other programming languages such as Java or C# or C++ or C, they start generally with 0. The reason is the first element is itself as at its own position. So if we try to find out the distance of first element with itself, it is always 0. That's why indexing in these programming language starts with 0. I just hope this concept of indexing is clear. Now, the way in which you have identified this, that if you want to fetch the first element and write 0, if you want to fetch the second element and write 1, if you want to fetch the third element and write 2, and so on, there is something which is called as reverse indexing that is also possible with respect to Python. What do we mean by reverse indexing? So you can say that if I want to fetch the last element, I can simply write print list 3, that's the name of the list from which I want to fetch the element, and I'll write -1. When I write -1, first list 3 is used, so you have to check in list 3 only. In list 3, check the element which is first from the last. So that is obviously unique Kaksha. That's the reason you can find when you write -1, that time it starts searching from the end of your list, and -1 indicates the first element from the end of the list. That's basically unique Kaksha over here. Okay, so this is basically what we mean by creating the list. What's the use of the list? So list is a kind of mutable structure. That means if I write list 1, 0 is equal to 1000, and if I print list 1 after this, then you will find out that I created or I updated list 1 with this values 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But then I wrote at the 0th position, I wanted to insert 1000, and that's the reason my list is modified. This is basically what we mean by list is mutable in nature. That means it is possible to mutate, it's possible to change the values which are present inside the list. So I just hope this part is clear for everyone, that what do we mean by list. Next is, there is something which is called as counterpart of the list, that's called as tuple or tuple. The way you want to pronounce it, you can pronounce. So it's similar to that of the list, but it is immutable. That means you cannot change or you cannot delete the values which are present inside the tuple. So that's the basic difference in between list and tuple. How to create this? So you can write tuple1, that's the name of the variable in which I want to store the values. Again, I can simply write this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever values that you want to pass. This is the way you can create the tuple. Now, in this case, if I am writing tuple 1 ka 0th element, make this as 5000, then it will generate an error. What that error is? So the error is tuple is the object that does not support item assignment. That means in tuple, once you create that tuple, after that it's not possible to change the value of that tuple. Okay, so that's basically the difference in between list and tuple. I just hope you have understood this. So I'll just make it as a comment so that when I share this file with you, that time you will not run the wrong codes. Next, there is something which is called as dictionary. Now, what do we mean by dictionary? It's same as that of the dictionary that we use in our day-to-day life. So basically, what the dictionary consists of? Suppose it's English to Hindi kind of dictionary. So there are English words and the Hindi words are mapped on those English words, or vice versa. So dictionary also provides you a kind of mapping structure only. So dictionary provides you something which is called as key pair. Dictionary में key pair होता है. What do we mean by key pair? Yes, dear, I am going to share this file with you. Just don't worry. That's the the entire motto that you need to learn. And whatever we are learning, I'll make sure that it is there with you after the end of the session. Okay. So dictionary is basically key pair. So how to generate or how to create this key pair? I can write something like this. Movie is equal to, for creating a dictionary, you have to simply write that in a curly brackets. So if you have just seen, the way of writing every type of data is slightly different. Whenever we were writing list, we were specifying brackets. Whenever we were writing tuple, we were specifying round brackets. Now whenever we are writing dictionary, that time we are specifying this curly brackets. So यहाँ पे suppose I want to say that movies के अंदर name and whatever name of the movie that you know like a most, you can write that name. So for example, I am writing Mother India. So if I just run the statement and if I simply check, so you'll get something like this. So likewise, you can create name is equal to Mother India, then you can simply write something like this, year, then in which year that film was released. So suppose say some 1957, then you can say who was the actor or who was the actress present over there. So you can simply go on adding this key and pair. This basically makes one key pair. This is a key. The first one, or the one which is written on the left hand side of this colon side, is a key. And Mother India is nothing but the value associated with that key. Year is the next key, and 1957 is nothing but the value associated with that key. Okay, so that's basically called as a key value pair. Name Mother India or year 1957. This is a key value pair for. Next, whenever you want to fetch the values from the dictionary, for example, if I want to fetch the name from the dictionary, I can write something like this. Suppose a movie. And then specify the respective key. I think the bracket has been wrongly put. Just a second. Yeah, so it is providing us the correct result. Okay, so instead of writing the index number, whenever you are writing with respect to the dictionaries, that time, if you want to fetch a certain value, then we can't pass the index number. Instead of that, we pass the name of that key. Okay, So if you want to fetch the year, then you would have written year over there and so on. So this is one thing that you need to remember, that whenever you want to address a certain value in the dictionary, whenever write the index number, but instead of that we specify the value of key and the respective value of, or the respective value of that key, that is nothing but, suppose I'm inserting name, so the value of this key is Mother India and so on, that will be returned to you. That's basically what we mean by dictionary. There is one more thing that is called as set. So set are used for creating a unique item collection. So for example, if I'm writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 7 inside this set S1, again, if you have noticed, in order to create the set also, we use curly brackets only. So how Python differentiates in the dictionary and set? When you write dictionary, you specify key, colon, and its pair, right? But whenever you write set, that time you simply write the set elements separated by comma. So it's an indication that this is not a dictionary, but this is set for this. Now, if I run this and if I just print the values present inside set S1, what you will be noticed that I pass the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 6, 5, 4, 7. That means I was deliberately passing the repeated values, but when set is taking the value, that time it is eliminating those repetitions and showing only unique values. So that's basically the strength of the set. So if you have something which is very redundant, pass that thing to the set. Set will take only the unique values out of it, and the redundancy will be removed from your data. So you can, create some structures, like you can create a set of characters as well. So it's not mandatory that हर बार जो भी data pass करते हो, that always has to be numerical data and something like that. You can have a character type of data, you can have a heterogeneous or mixed type of data and so on. सिर्फ अगर heterogeneous data set को pass करते हो, then it won't be able to perform some mathematical operations of the set, such as union, intersection, difference and so on. So that's why अगर आपको वो सारे set operations use करने हैं, that time make sure that you are providing proper integer values to your set. Okay, so let us just quickly revise all this non-primitive data types of the Python. So the non-primitive data types of the Python are list, tuple, dictionary, and set. For now, we are understanding this. There are 2, 3 others, but that we are not discussing because it's related. One is related to the memory view and so on, which is not required in order to understand the codes. So in list, we can store the elements, which is ordered collection of the elements, and we can change those elements. Tuple is again ordered collection of the elements, but we can't change the elements. Dictionary stores the elements in terms of key and pair, key and value. It is used for mapping. Set stores the unique element, so it helps you to remove or reduce redundancy in your data. Okay, so I just hope these things are clear so far. Any doubts till this part? Have you understood all these non-primitive data types of Python? At least the basics, whatever we have discussed. Is it clear? You can just say yes or no, so that it will be better, easier for me to move ahead. Okay, thanks Ashwini, thanks Nikhil, thank you everyone for giving that confirmation. Next is, let us just check something called as conditional statements in Python. Python is a very, very beautiful language, guys. So I know, unfortunately, I'm not able to share all the details of list, tuple, dictionary, set, and so on. And if you are really interested to, or curious about how this works, then I think we have something called as a very short-term 10 or 20 sessions ka Python as well. So if you are interested, if you think that you have interest in this language, then you can study, or not from us, then you can study from any other book or anything that you wish. But just make sure that you are studying this programming language, because somewhere in the future, if you want to be there in the tech industry or in the IT industry, you need to know Python somewhere. So, anyways, come back to the discussion of something called as a conditional state. So, basically, what we mean by conditional state. Now, again, let us try to go through the literal English meaning of this word called as a condition. When I say that I can go to party, but condition is I have to come back at 9 o'clock. So basically, you are saying that perform an event, go to the event, but the condition is whenever there is a 9 o'clock, that time I have to reach at my place. That's basically what you mean by having condition. You can have a speed of greater than 60 kilometers per hour, provided you are, have or you are going or you are traveling through a specific national highways. Otherwise, if you are traveling in an internal roads, then it is not allowed you to have a very great speed per kilometer, kilometers per hour in the internal roads of any region, of internal roads of any country as well. So that's basically you are saying that you can access to certain things provided you are following a given condition. So if you want to see or if you want to enforce such kind of logic, then you have to use conditional statements. Prithvi, in between you have a question, how to see previous videos. So yes, at the end of this session, our team will guide you, or you can simply drop a message, or in fact our team will notice this message and they'll get back to you about how to view the recordings of the previous sessions. I think there is some playlist, you will get the access of that and you can view it. I hope you got the solution for your query, dear. Coming back to this conditional statements in Python, let us try to write one short program. It says that accept age from user, and if age is greater than 18, then allow user to vote. If the age is less than 18, then you will say that you are not eligible for voting. So if you want to create a code out of it, first thing is you have to accept the age from user. So far we were hard coding the values in all the codes that we have written. Hard coding in a sense, we were passing the values. We were not dynamically taking the values. What do we mean by dynamically taking the values? Dynamically taking the values is asking the values from user. I think my screen is just zoomed, so you can have a better look at the screen. I can say that age is equal to input, enter your age. If I simply write like this, if I execute this, then it will give you some text box wherein you can write the value of the age, whatever value you want to write. Now, if you simply try to check what is the type of this variable age, then it will show you that the type is string. So what I want to tell you from this, input function by default stores everything in string form. But I know that age of a person can never be a string. It has to be a number, right? I cannot say that ABC is my age or XYZ is my age and so on. So age is always a number. And that's why I have to write something like this. Int input enter your age. This particular way of writing data type before a certain statement is something which is called as type conversion, or to be very specific, it is called as explicit type conversion. So what do we mean by explicit type conversion? You are forcefully converting something from its original format to some other format. So input function creates the data in string format. You forcefully want to convert it into integer format and you want to store it inside age. Now if I just run this and if I type age is equal to 25, it will show you that type of age is integer, which is required. I just hope this part is clear that why we write in this way. Now we'll say that if the value of age is greater than 18, this is called as indentation. In all the other programming language, when we specify condition, we write a curly bracket and within that curly bracket, we specify the code. That means if this is true, then what to do? If this is false, then what to do? So that code is generally written inside the curly braces. But Python says that don't use those curly brackets. Instead of that, use this indent. Indent is simply a colon. So you just have to give the colon. And as soon as you press enter on your screen, you'll find out automatically your cursor moves to one tab towards the right hand side from the 0th position of your screen. What is the meaning or what's the purpose? The purpose here is when you are writing something within it. That means you want to say that if this is true, then and then only execute the statements which are written within it. So for example, if I'm writing print, you are eligible. Let me just write and then I'll explain you. That would be better. Else, let us print, you are not eligible. So when we write like this, अभी इसको as a non-coder read करो कि आपको coding पता ही नहीं है, nothing you are aware, you are simply reading this normal English statements. So पहले statement से मैंने क्या read किया, that I am asking to enter the age, ठीक है. दूसरे statement से मैंने क्या read किया, if the value of age is greater than 18. थर्ड स्टेटमेंट पे मैंने क्या रीड किया, that you are eligible. If you are not aware about any programming language, if you are not aware about anything from the programming or anything from the code, then also it is very easier for you to understand that if age is greater than 18, then it is going to print you are eligible. Else, if the not greater than 18, then you are going to print you are not eligible. So this indentation simply helps you to write your code in a very easier format, in a very readable type of format. What do you mean by readability? That means anyone can read your code, will come to know that, okay, this is a statement that I have to perform when this if condition is true. This is a statement I have to perform when the if condition is false. That's basically the purpose of writing indentation. Like जब भी आप word document create करते हो, तो word documents में भी indentations होते हैं. Like if you are having a pointers, then pointers we generally write using those circles or using 1 2 3 4. उसके अंदर कोई point होगा, then we simply move slightly towards the right hand side and then उसके अंदर points लिखना start करते हैं. So as you said, the code becomes very effective to read using indentation. So your answer is absolutely correct here, and I am happy that you are able to give this answer, that what is the indentation at this point. Okay, so I just hope everyone is very clear about what this piece of code is doing. Let us just execute this code. It's asking for the age. I'm entering age 25. It's telling me that I'm eligible. If I'm writing the age as 5, it will tell me that I am not eligible. So this is basically how the code will work. You can have n number of statements, like I have written just one if statement. You can have multiple nested if statements as well. Let me just give you a very simple example of that. Suppose you are accepting a value from user, which is again in integer format. Enter value. Here I am writing that if value modulus 2 is equals to 0, then you have to print its even number. Else you will say if value modulus 2 is not equal to 0, then you will print that it's odd number. And if both things are false, then you can simply say that else print entry is invalid. So you are asking user to enter the value. Whatever value user will enter, that will be converted into integer format. If that value divided by 2 results into 0, that means that number is completely divisible by 0. And it's a very simple logic of even number, that any number that is completely divisible by 0 is nothing but even number. And any number which is not divisible by 0 or after division, if it gives you remainder as 1, then you could have written like this. If number or value mod 2 equals to 1, this is also a correct logic. Then you can write like this. Yeah, I deliberately made that mistake just in order to point out the concept of something called as multiple if else. Now, if you are writing like this, तो इसका मतलब क्या होता है? You are writing one if statement and there are two else statements. So again, the user will get confused that, what simply you want to write. If this is false, then this is also one else and this is also one else. That means in one program, we can have just one if statement and there can be one else statement. So what one should write over here? Kuch to likhna padega. So in this case, I can write something called as else. In most other programming language, else if is the correct word, but whenever it comes to Python, we write something called as else. Okay, so this is the way adapted by the Python from something called as a Unix or Linux kind of architecture. So in Linux as well as in Unix, we have this way of writing elif, which stands for the else. Now this code is correct, or now this code is optimum, and it's readable as well. That if the value mod 2 is equal to 0, then it's even number. Else if value mod 2 is equal to 1, then it's odd number. And if both these conditions are not valid, that means obviously number itself is invalid in this case. I just hope the logic of the code is clear to you. And this is also clear that when you want to evaluate multiple conditions, so for evaluating multiple conditions, you have to use something called as if and else if. So this thing that we have just created is also called as else if ladder, or you can also call it as multiple else if statements or if else statements. If you want to say it as if else, तो भी चलेगा, else if बोलना है तो भी चलेगा. Just to make sure whatever code that you are writing, that should give you proper result. Okay, so if you simply try running this code, so I'm running this code, I will rerun this. If I'm running the value as 5, then it will give me that it's odd number. If I'm running if I'm giving the value as 8, it's giving me even number. I'm giving the value as this, it's giving me error, because obviously in this case you can't write the your values which is string in nature. The reason is here you have mentioned explicitly that the value that age can accept is only integer. Okay, so I just hope this piece of code is very clear to you, that how one can use if else and elif statement. Is this clear? Any doubts so far? Have you understood this conditional statement? Any doubts? Is it good to go for the next one? That is a looping type of statements. Just give me your answer in terms of yes, no, whatever it is, so that I can go to the next topic of looping structures. Okay, that's great. So the next topic of our discussion is looping conditions or loop statements. Again, the question to you, you may come from tech background, you may not come from the tech background. What is this word loop tells you? What do you think what it could be? Like condition statements pe, I gave you one example that if you are coming home after party after 9, then you are not allowed. So that's basically the condition. So like that, what will be the loop? Can you give me any example of the loop that you see in your day-to-day life? Yes, it's a repetition. Perfect. Any example you would like to give for the concept of loop? Okay, every day there is a sunrise at certain point of time. Clock is an example of loop, correct? Anything else? Any general phenomena that you see, it repeats at some fixed interval or at some desired interval. Yes, class timings in the college, again it's related to the clock. And yeah, sometimes they also refer to Newton's law, sorry, it also refers to Einstein's law of relativity as well. Morning times seems to be longer as compared to that of the evening times. Anyways, Jokes apart, so whatever examples that you have given so far are absolutely correct. So what do we mean by loop statements? So loop statements or loop basically in every programming language is that structure which allows you to repeat a certain piece of code again and again. So unless and until user is not giving the terminating condition, or unless and until the termination condition is not followed, the statements which are written inside the loop will go on executing. That's basically what we mean by loop. So for example, let us take a very simple example of say AC. When you start your AC, that time there is some fixed steps, or there are some fixed things that are done by that AC, that is cooling a temperature. Then unless and until you are not switching off that AC, it cools your room with the given temperature that is decided by your air conditioner. That's basically, you can say that it's a loop. When you break the loop, when you say that now I want to switch off the AC, you simply press the button of switching off the AC, and then it comes out of that loop and it's closed. So obviously जो आपका room temperature maintenance होगा, that will stop forever. So basically, I just hope everyone must have understood the meaning of this statement that we mean by the loop statements or loop structures. Python allows you to write a code basically in for loop and while loop. Why I said that? Because if you're coming from the different coding backgrounds, then you might have worked with do while loop and the other loops as well. But in Python, we standard use only two loops, for loop and while. Let us quickly understand what is the difference in between for and while. But before me explaining, any one of you is aware about what is the difference in between for and while? Anyone who comes from the coding background? Any answer from your side? When to use for, when to use while? Okay, someone has given the answer. I just check. For is for the definite loop, while is very nice, very good, correct. So basically, when you know your terminating condition, or when you know how many times the loop should execute, that time we go for the for loop. And when I don't know, when exactly my loop will terminate, that time I can use the while loop. That's the basic difference in between for and while. So absolutely correct answer given by you. I could have mentioned your name, but you have given your name as Eureka. So I can't say Eureka is given the correct answer. So you can edit your name up. Anyways, jokes apart. So if I just want to print something using for loop, I can write something like this: for I in range 10, print I. Just a second. My kernel needs to be restarted. Yeah, it sometimes happen कि you are running the statement, but it doesn't run. So अगर ऐसे होता है while you are coding, what you can do is there is one option called as restart the kernel, because what happens when you are writing the code, multiple statements of the code, like I was writing the code since the morning. So there are a lot of variables that have been generated, and sometimes it gets simply exhausted, and because of that you simply go on executing the code, but वो execute नहीं होता and आपको result नहीं मिलता. So in such cases you simply get confused that I am writing the correct code, but why my answer is not coming. So Just restart your kernel, it will generate the answer. Anyways, coming to the topic, for I in range of 10, print I. How it works? So when you are saying range 10, so this range function will automatically generate the range of 10 numbers starting from 0. So what you are saying, for the first element, so the first element is 0, it will print that first element, so 0 will be printed. The value of y will be incremented to 1. It will check if value 1 lies in the given range. Yes, 1 lies in the given range because 1 is less than 10. It will print 1. Value of I will be incremented. Current value of I will become 2. It will check if the value 2 lies in the given range. Yes, it lies in the given range. So 2 will be printed on the screen. So on, it will come to suppose say value 8. It will check whether 8 is less than 10. So yes, 8 is less than 10. So 8 will be printed on the screen. Then the value will become 9. It will simply check whether 9 is less than 10. So yes, 9 is also less than 10. So it is going to print 9 on your screen. And then when the value becomes equal to 10, now 10 is not less than 10, right? Set 10 is not less than 10, and that's the reason this condition will become false this time. As this condition has become false, it will come out of the loop because abhi uska jo bhi limiting tha, that limiting is over. You can just write the elements from 0 to 9 when you specify the ranges of 10, because indexing starts with 0. So I just hope this point is clear to you. That's the reason it is starting with 0 and ending at 9. Just a second. Yeah. So that was the reason why it started with 0 and it ended at 9. If you count the total number of entries, so the total number of entries are 10, but just because it is starting with 0, it has to stop at 9. So whatever range you specify, if I'm specifying the range 50, then it will print the element starting from 0 till 49. So if I want my 50 to be printed on the screen, in that case, I have to provide the range as 51. Okay, so I just hope this is clear. On the other hand, if you are providing the value, suppose say 10, 20, then in that case, it will start printing the value from 10. But again, end ka rule wahi hai. So if you are writing 20 pe end hona chahiye, so it will print the element till 20 minus 1, that is still 19 on the screen. Okay, so that is how the range works. I hope this part is clear for everyone. Again, if you have any doubt in any of the thing, please feel free to ask your doubt. Don't feel shy or don't feel that the doubt is very silly or something like that. Now, there is one more argument that you can pass to the range function. So this time, if you have checked, I have passed 3 values to the range function. This is a starting parameter. That means I want my function to print, or I want my loop, sorry, to print the values from 10. It should halt at 20 and the values must be incremented by 2. So by default, when you write 10, 20, that time every value is incremented by 1, like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. But when you write 2, that time the first value is 10. It will skip the next value and will print 12. It will skip the next one, that is 13, will print 14. It will skip the next one, that is 15, and it will print 16. It will skip the next one, that is 17 will be skipped, and 18 will be displayed on the screen. Okay, so my question to you is, in between 10 to 20, if I want to print odd numbers, तो मुझे क्या change करना पड़ेगा in the given code? What I need to change in the given code if I want to print all the odd numbers? This code is printing my even numbers, right? So I want to print odd numbers in between 10 to 20. So what I need to change in this given code? I hope the question is clear. Yes, correct. Absolutely correct. So you have to start this from 11. So as soon as you will start this from 11, you'll find out that it is printing now the values of the odd numbers in between 10 to 20. Very nice. Absolutely correct. So this shows that you have understood how to use for loop and how to use this range function. Next one, what is the use of while and how while is used? So for example, if I am writing n is equal to 5, any number I can write. I am writing I is equal to 1, sum is equal to 0. I'll write the entire code and then I will explain. So just give me 1 second. While I is less than or equal to say n, if I is equal to 4, then break. Then perform sum is equal to sum plus I. And finally, print the value of sum. Suppose this kind of slightly complicated code I am writing because I just want to explain you the concept of break as well. So that's the reason I'm explaining this code. Just a second. Just give me 1 second. I'll just modify this code a bit so that it won't be very difficult for you to understand. And then I'll write print sum is sum. I'll write this outside the loop so that it won't repeatedly print that sum and will confuse the user. Okay, so without running this code, if I simply ask any one of you, what will be the output of this code? Will you please think about this? Okay, so I got some responses 1, 1, 2, 3. Someone is giving sum is equal to 10, 3, and so on. Anyways, okay. So from this, I just wanted to know whether you are aware about this concept of break or not. So it seems that you are not aware about the concept of break. So let me explain this thing to you. It's very simple, basically. So just don't worry. Start reading the code from the first line. So let me reveal the answer. The answer is 6. N is equal to 5. That means we are creating one variable and we are deciding the value of that variable to be 5. On next line, we are writing I is equal to 1. So this is used as a iterator or this is used as a counter. इसको हम counter की तरह use करेंगे. For example, over here in for loop as well, we have used this counter, which was incrementing every time the loop has been executed. So likewise, ये counter का काम क्या है? That when one time the loop executes, increment the counter. Second time, when the loop executes, increment the counter, and so on. For example, if I want to perform a certain activity 5 times, then I need to have a counter which will keep a track that the activity is happening 5 times. Otherwise, अगर वो 6 times हो रहा है या फिर if it is happening 4 times, then it is wrong, right? So I have to keep a track using the counter. Next line पे you are creating one variable, you are calling that variable as sum, and you are defining the value to that variable as 0. On next line, you are writing for I less than equal to n, if the value of I becomes 4, then break. What is the meaning of this? I know most of you got confused just because of this one word that I used over here called as break. So basically in looping structure, whenever you want to break the existing flow of your loop, that time we use this break. For example, एक certain activity को 10 times करना है, but when a certain exceptional criteria occurs, that time मुझे loop को terminate करना. That's basically what we mean by break. So what is the meaning of this? I just hope till this part you all are very clear that you are creating a variable, you are assigning value as 5. You are creating a variable for counter, जिसको one value assign किया है because counter 1 पे set है and now it is going to increment. The value of sum is prior set to 0. Then you are saying while I is less than 1. Now, while I is less than n. So current value of I is 1. Current value of n is 5. So you are checking if 1 is less than equal to 5, this condition is true. As this condition is true, it will go to this if part. It will check if the current value of I is equal to 4 or not. So current value of I क्या है? Current value of I is 1, which is not equal to 4. That means this if loop के अंदर जो लिखा है, that is break statement, that will not be executed and this line will be executed, that is sum is equal to sum plus 1. So initially the value of sum was 0. Now it will become 0 plus 1. So the current value of sum will become 1 now. Then what you are writing? Then you are writing increment the counter. So this time the counter will become 2 now because you are incrementing the counter by 1. Again it will check, is 2 less than 5? Yes, 2 is less than 5. It will check if 2 is equal to 4. No, 2 is not equal to 4. That means this break statement will not be activated. And sum is equal to sum plus I. I ka value 2 hai. Sum ka value is 1 because in the previous iteration the value of sum has become 1. So currently this value will become 2 plus 1, that is equal to 3, and sum is going to store value as 3 now. Next time the value of I will be incremented. As the value of I is incremented, the value of I will become 3. It will check if the 3 is less than 5. Yes. Is 3 equal to 4? No. That means the break will not be activated and sum is equal to sum plus I. So previously the value of sum is 3. Now the current value of I is also 3. So the current value of sum will become 6. The value of I will be incremented and I will become 4 now. It will check if 4 is less than 5. Yes. It will check if 4 is equal to 4. Now this time, this if condition is satisfied because 4 is equal to 4 and break will be executed. As break is executed, the function will stop executing at this point and इसके नीचे आपने जो कुछ भी लिखा है, that will not be executed because break indicates come out of that loop. So it will come out of that loop and it is going to print the value of sum. So the previous value or the newest updated value of sum was 6. That's the reason it is displaying the value as 6 for the given question. Is the question clear? Have you understood how while works? So for while, you have initialized the value. Here you are checking till the value is less than equal to 5. You have to run the loop. And over here, you have to increment the value of the counter. All these things are automatically done in the for loop. But whenever you are writing while loop, you have to write these things explicitly. That is declaration, or you can say the condition and incrementation that you have to write explicitly for the while. Is this clear? Have you understood this part? Why the answer is 6 now? I understand someone has given answer is equal to 10. So Ashwini, you gave the answer that the value of sum should be equal to 10. You are going into the correct track, but the only mistake that you haven't seen this break condition, and because of that you added 4 to that 6 and you got the result as 10. So you were reaching almost to the correct answer, but that one mistake of break made your answer wrong.
Yes. Thanks.
Yeah. So I just hope the rest all the students, you all are very clear about the concepts of counter, or the concepts of for loop, or the concepts of while loop, the concept of break itself. So the next thing that we will check very quickly is something called as functions, because that is what we need for the tomorrow's session. For building a game, we need to create our own functions. So there are few functions which are already available in Python, such as sorry, We are using print function. We are using input function. We are using int function. We are using float function. We have used type function. We have used और क्या क्या functions use किए थे? Okay, these were the functions that are used by us so far. So all these functions are provided by Python. Now, if you want to customize your own function, then is it possible to do that in Python? Yes, it's absolutely possible to do that. What do we mean by function basically? Function is a set of logically related statements which can be given as a single block. For example, watching a TV. When you are watching a TV, that time what are the different activities that you are doing? Obviously, your eyes are involved into that. Your mind is involved into that. So all these things are logically related to each other. So all those things are combined together to form a function that is watching TV. I hope you are getting what I'm trying to say. Similarly, if you are creating a function for withdrawing an amount from the bank, so iske andar what are the statements that are required or what are the logical statements? First, you need to check how much amount user wants to withdraw. Then you have to check whether the amount that user want to withdraw is, I mean, that much amount is actually present in his or her account or not. Then you have to check that after withdrawing that amount, what will be the current balance of that user? Is it dropping down from the minimum balance or not? So all these things you have to check, which are logically related to each other. You can combine all these things together to form a function called as withdraw. That's basically what we mean by function, that all related things or logically related things should be packed together to form one function, or you can say to form one functionality. So how to create a function? Suppose I'm creating this function called as add, which is a parameterized function. That means it requires two values to be passed by the user. And this function will return me the result a plus b. Again, if you come from the non-technical background, then too, you can at least understand the basic English statements or basic English word. Def is basically used to define the function or to create a function. Add is the name of that function. A and B, that means we want to say that this function will accept two values and what it is going to do with that two values. So it will return me addition of those two numbers. So in future, if I am writing simply add 12 comma 20, or if I am writing add 50 comma this number, I have to write print, otherwise it will give only the last result. So I'll write print over here and I will write print over here. See this. So it is taking the value 12 and 20 as the values of A and B. 12 will take the position of A, 20 will take the position of B. And what you have to do with this, you have to perform A plus B. So it will perform 12 plus 20 and the result will be given as 32. The same thing will occur with the next pair of numbers. So you can call this function as many number of times as you want. So ये जो complete code है, इसके अंदर what is def? Def is basically a keyword that creates function. Then what is this add? Add is nothing but the name of function. What is this A and B? These are called as formal parameters of function. That means they simply are representative parameters. What I mean by this, in your code, when you pass the value 12 and 20, these were the actual parameters. That means हमने addition A plus B का नहीं किया है. A plus B are just the placeholder. 12 takes the place of A, 20 takes the place of B, and उसके बाद A plus B होता है. That's why this A and B are called as just a formal parameters, because they are just doing the formality of holding your values, and this 12 and 20 are basically your actual values. Then the line when you wrote like this, add 12 comma 20, this basically is called as calling function. So this is basically you have created a function and this is how you have called that function. What is the use of return? So return helps you to return the value to the user from that function. Okay, so I just hope all these things are clear to you with respect to function. Okay, so these are some of the basic paradigms when we start coding into the Python. Now, let me just show you one final thing and then we'll stop our session for the day. So just give me 1 second. I'm starting my spider. I'm launching my spider. Meanwhile, there is one form that is constantly being circulated. I just hope you are looking into that form. That form may you just have to fill in your details. That's not for us. That's for you because we want to provide you certification. So make sure you're filling it. Make sure you're filling the feedback form as well. Okay, so let me show you something like this. Yeah, I'll restart this code. Just give me 1 second, guys. Yeah. So after 5 seconds, if you have seen all those things that were there in the diagram, they simply went off. What you have to do is you have to recollect it. So for example, if I'm drawing or if I'm revealing that the first block was having this yellow circle, then I have to identify the next exact block where the yellow circle was there. Then I have to identify the next exact block where this type of structure was there. I have to find out all these pairs. I'm really sorry, but I don't recollect everything because I was slightly in hurry when I just checked it. Anyways, but I just hope you might have understood what this code is doing. This should be here and this should be here. So if you just can see, this is basically what we want to create and we are going to create it tomorrow. And in order to create this code, you need to have the knowledge of else if, for loop. You need to know something called as creating the functions. So we have created the functions. We have used all the if else loop. We have used all the conditional statements in order to generate it. We have used structure, list structure over here. We have used what you can say, dynamic functions over here. So this is basically what is required in the tomorrow's session, and that's why in today's session we just covered all the basics. Okay, so that's it for today. I just hope you have enjoyed the session. I just hope you are understood whatever the things that were discussed in this session. So just to make sure, fill the feedback form and fill the form for the certificate without any fail. If you have any doubts or anything to ask, you can ask your doubt in the chat box. Okay, any doubts, anything that you want to ask? Have you understood whatever was taught in this session? Was this
Guys,
session
if
fruitful
anybody
for
has
you?
any guys, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask or you can write in the chat box. And also, I request everybody to fill the feedback form as well. And you can see the recordings of this session on our YouTube channel for the link I have already sent on the chat box. And you can also find other videos as well, the other sessions which we are conducting on our YouTube channel. So if anybody has any queries, they can ask, they can write in the chat box. And whosoever has not filled the form, just fill it once only. And whosoever has already filled it, they don't need to fill it again. If you have any queries, you can, visit our website. You can write to our email. You can also call us on this number and we'll be happy to assist you. I guess nobody has queries, so I guess Prachi ma'am, we should call it a session. And thanks everyone for joining. Have a very good evening and see you tomorrow again at 4 o'clock. Bye bye.
Yes, and one more last announcement that I wanted to do. Once you get your certification after completion of today's as well as tomorrow's course content, please make sure that put that certification or whatever certificate that you have over the LinkedIn, because that's not for us, that's for you only. Because whenever the recruiters are searching for the right candidate, so nowadays they have something called as filters So they search the candidates using keywords. So if your profile is having those keywords, then there are high chances that you will be noticed by the recruiter. So whatever certifications you do, it's always good to mention it over the LinkedIn. So instead of using any other social media platform, I mean it's a genuine opinion from my side, because you are my student. So I'm just saying you that make sure that you are posting your certificate over the LinkedIn. That's it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone. Have a very good evening. Bye bye.
Thank you.